What just leaked after the Japanese Grand Prix could destroy Red Bull's future before the Ford era even begins. Max Verstappen finished 8th, more than 30 seconds behind the winner. Not because of strategy, not because of traffic, because the car is losing power every single lap. And here's the part nobody is talking about. This same problem might already be inside the next Red Bull Ford engine, meaning this is not just a bad race. This could be the beginning of a long-term collapse. And if that's true, everything you think about Red Bull's future is wrong. Subscribe now, because what really happened in Japan is much worse than it looks. Everyone saw the result. 8th place. A number that, on its own, sounds bad, but not catastrophic. But here's where the story really begins. Because that position hides something much more serious. Verstappen did not finish 8th because of one mistake. He did not lose positions because of a bad start alone. He was stuck there, trapped in a place where the car simply could not do more. And that changes the entire narrative. Because when a top driver struggles, you ask questions. But when that same driver cannot fight back, you start looking at the machine. And the RB22 is sending very clear signals. From the very first laps, something felt off. No aggression, no sharp moves, no control over the race, just reaction, waiting for others to make mistakes. And that is not how Verstappen races. That is how a limited car behaves. But here is where it gets even more uncomfortable. Suzuka is not a random circuit. This is one of the most technical tracks in Formula 1. High-speed corners, precise balance, total confidence required. And if your car has even the smallest instability, this track exposes it instantly. Which is exactly what happened. The car was not stable, not predictable, not consistent. Corner after corner, it was fighting itself. And Verstappen knew it. You could hear it in the radio. You could see it in the onboard. Small corrections, constant adjustments, no flow. And when a driver like him loses rhythm, it means the problem is deeper than setup. Much deeper. But here's the detail that most people completely missed. Even when the opportunity appeared, he still could not attack. Think about that. Safety car reset, fresh tires, better track position. Everything aligned for a comeback. And still, nothing changed. He gained positions, yes, but not by pace, not by dominance, only by circumstance. And once the race stabilized again, the same limitation returned. He reached the car ahead, stayed there, close, but never close enough. Lap after lap, trying, failing. And that moment, right there, is where the real problem reveals itself. Because in Formula 1, overtaking is not just about bravery. It is about energy, deployment, timing. And if your car cannot deliver power at the exact moment you need it, you are not racing. You are surviving. And Verstappen was surviving. Not fighting. Not controlling. Just holding position. And that is something we have not seen in years. But this is where the story takes another turn. Because while he was stuck behind, the gap to the front kept growing. Not slowly. Not gradually. Rapidly. Every lap, losing time. Every sector, falling further behind. Until the number became impossible to ignore. Over 30 seconds. On pure pace. And that is the moment everything shifts. Because now you are no longer asking, what went wrong this weekend? You are asking, how far behind are they really? And more importantly, why? Because a gap like that does not appear overnight. It builds. Silently. Race after race. Until one weekend, it becomes visible to everyone. And Japan was that moment. The moment where the illusion broke. The moment where Red Bull stopped looking like contenders and started looking vulnerable. But the most important part is what comes next. Because what we saw on track is only the symptom. The real cause is something much bigger. And it connects directly to the leak that is now shaking the paddock. Now here's where everything starts to connect. And where the situation becomes much more serious than it looks. Because after the race, engineers didn't focus on lap times. They focused on something else. Data. And what they found is what triggered the leak. At first, it was just a pattern. Small inconsistencies. Moments where the car suddenly lost performance. Without any clear reason. Not driver error. Not tire degradation. Something deeper. And when they isolated those moments, they all pointed to the same system. Energy deployment. This is the hidden layer of Formula 1. The part fans don't see. But the part that decides everything. When to release power. How long it lasts. How efficiently it's used. And in the RB22, that system is failing. Not completely, but at the worst possible times. Right before overtakes. right when acceleration matters most. And here's the key detail. It's not just losing power. It's losing it unpredictably, which makes it impossible for the driver to trust the car. And in Formula One, confidence is everything. Without it, you brake earlier. You hesitate. You stop attacking. Exactly what we saw with Verstappen. But this is where the story goes even deeper. Because when engineers compared this behavior to their internal development data, they saw something alarming. The same pattern appearing in early simulations of the next generation system, the Ford project. Now think about what that means. This is not just a current car issue. This could be a design philosophy problem, a limitation in how Red Bull is managing energy. And if that carries into the future, they are not just fixing a car, they are fighting their own foundation. But wait, because there is another layer that makes this even worse. The numbers don't lie. While competitors deploy energy smoothly, Red Bull is forced to cut power earlier, for longer, every lap, and over a full race distance. That becomes massive, not a small disadvantage, a compounding loss, time that cannot be recovered. And this explains something critical. Why the gap keeps growing, not just staying the same. Because every lap, the deficit increases. And that's exactly what happened in Japan. Lap after lap, the leaders pulled away, effortlessly, while Verstappen could do nothing about it. But here's the part that changes everything. Red Bull doesn't fully understand why this is happening. Not completely. They have theories. They have simulations. But no definitive answer. And in Formula One, that is the worst position to be in. Because without a clear cause, there is no clear solution. So every update becomes a risk. Every change, a guess. And while they search for answers, the season keeps moving. Points keep disappearing. Pressure keeps building. And rivals keep improving. But now comes the question that nobody inside Red Bull wants to answer. What if this isn't fixable, in time? Because if the root of the problem is truly embedded in how the car generates and uses energy, then this is not a quick fix. This is a long process. A redesign. A shift in approach. And that takes time. Time they don't have. Because championships are not won with potential. They are won with execution. Right now. Race after race. And Red Bull is not executing. They are reacting. And that is the clearest sign of all. Because dominant teams control the narrative. Struggling teams chase it. And after Japan, Red Bull is chasing. But the most important piece of this story is still missing. Because everything we've talked about so far leads to one final question. One that connects Verstappen, the RB22, and the Ford future. And that question is simple. If this problem is already this visible now, how bad could it become later? And this is where the story reaches its most uncomfortable point. Because up until now, you could still argue this is temporary. A bad concept. A wrong direction. Something that can be corrected with updates. But what if it's not? Because when you step back and connect every piece, a much darker picture starts to form. The bouncing. The instability. The energy loss. The inconsistency between qualifying and race pace. These are not isolated problems. They all point to the same core issue. A car that cannot operate within a stable window. And in Formula One, that is everything. Because a fast car is not just about peak performance. It's about repeatability, predictability, confidence. And the RB22 has none of those right now. But here's where things become critical. Because solving one of these issues might make another one worse. Lower the ride height to gain speed. You increase bouncing. Stabilize the rear. You lose rotation in corners. Adjust energy deployment. You compromise straight-line speed later in the lap. Every solution creates a new problem. And that is the definition of a design trap. A loop with no easy exit. And this is exactly where Red Bull finds itself. But now take that idea and extend it into the future. Because the Ford partnership is not just an engine deal. It is a full integration. A complete system. Power unit. Energy recovery. Deployment strategy. All working as one. So if the current weakness is already tied to energy management, then the risk is obvious. You are not just carrying a problem forward. You are building around it. And that is the part insiders are starting to worry about. Quietly. Behind closed doors. Because early data suggests the efficiency gap is not closing. It's stabilizing. And that might sound harmless. But it's not. Because if your rival is already ahead, and you are not catching up, you are falling behind. Even if your numbers look consistent. And this brings us to the most dangerous scenario of all. Not failure, but limitation. A ceiling. A point where no matter what you change, The performance cannot go beyond a certain level. And if Red Bull has reached that point, then this season is already decided. But more importantly, so might be the next one. And this is where Verstappen becomes the center of the storm. Because drivers like him do not stay in situations like this for long. Not when they feel the car cannot win. Not when they lose trust in the project. And right now, you can hear it in his voice. Short answers. Direct statements. No optimism. Just facts. We are slow. We are not in the fight. We need answers. That is not a champion defending a title. That is a driver evaluating his future. And Red Bull knows it. Which is why the pressure is no longer just technical. It's existential. Because losing performance is one thing. Losing your lead driver is something else entirely. And suddenly, this is not just about fixing a car. It's about saving a project. A vision. An entire era that was supposed to begin with Ford. But now, hangs in uncertainty. And here's the final twist. The one that ties everything together. Japan was not the worst-case scenario. It was the first clear signal. The first time everything aligned and exposed the truth. Because when a dominant team suddenly looks average, it's never random. It's the result of something that has been building, quietly, race after race, until it can no longer be hidden. And now it's visible. For everyone. So the real question is no longer what went wrong in Japan. The real question is, has Red Bull already crossed a line they can't come back from? And now, we reach the part nobody inside Red Bull wants to say out loud. Because everything so far still assumes one thing. That there is time. Time to analyze. Time to fix. Time to recover. But Formula One does not work like that. Because while Red Bull is searching, everyone else is executing. Mercedes is not experimenting. They already understand their car. They already trust their system. They already know where their performance comes from. And that changes everything. Because development in Formula One is not linear. It is exponential. If you understand your car, every update makes it faster. If you don't, every update becomes a gamble. And right now, Red Bull is gambling. Bringing changes without certainty. Adjusting parameters without full control. Hoping something works, instead of knowing it will. And that is why the gap is not shrinking. It is growing. Quietly. Relentlessly. Race after race. But here is where the situation becomes critical. Because there is a hidden cost to all of this. A cost that does not appear in lap times. A cost that builds internally. Confidence inside the team. Because when engineers stop trusting the data, when drivers stop trusting the car, when leadership stops having clear answers, performance is not the first thing you lose. Clarity is. And without clarity, even the best team in the world starts to hesitate. Decisions take longer. Directions become uncertain. And suddenly, you are no longer leading the grid. You are reacting to it. But now comes the most important connection of all. Because everything we've talked about, every issue, every limitation, every unknown, points to one single moment in the future. The regulation change. The new era. The Ford partnership. Because that was supposed to be the reset. The moment Red Bull builds from zero. The moment they take control again. But what if that reset is built on the same misunderstanding? Because if the current problems are rooted in how they generate and deploy energy, then the risk is clear. You are not starting fresh.